Scene title: Lady uses a toy to call Bigfoot. Lady leads the Bigfoot team a long ways into and through the woods. We'll need to show many different scenes of them walking through all types of forest and wooded terrain. Lady is telling the Bigfoot team a lot of Bigfoot stories. She also shows them a whole lot of different types of Bigfoot markings, like their tracks, their nests and so on. After she has the Bigfoot team completely convinced that they are all really hot on Bigfoot's trail, they all start getting prepared, getting their tranq guns and big nets out, because now they're really expecting to just walk up on Bigfoot at any time. The lady looks at them all and asks, "What are all you doing?" They reply, "Well, it seems you are actually getting us really close to an actual Bigfoot habitat, and so we're thinking we may come across a Bigfoot at any time now." She says, "Well, of course they exist." Then she asks, "What? None of you have ever actually seen a Bigfoot?" They reply, "Well, no. Not really. That's why we're here. To prove that Bigfoot exists." She says, "Oh, well, I thought you guys were really just wanting to study them, because you all seemed so very interested in studying their nesting beds, and all of you really seem to like following their footprint, as if you were wanting to study their migration paths. But, just so you know, if you really want to just see one, I can very easily use my Bigfoot caller, and at least one of them will actually just walk right out of the woods and straight over to us." The Bigfoot hunter asks, "Do what?" thinking to himself that this lady is maybe just a little bit nuts. Then he notices that she's reaching into her pocket and then pulls out this funny-looking toy Bigfoot head. And then she acts as if she's actually going to just blow on this stupid toy, and a real Bigfoot is going to just walk right out of the woods for her. So, Jack then burst right out with, "What the fuck, lady? We have literally been following you around for hours and hours," and says to himself, but he actually says it out loud, "I must really be completely fucking nuts to have been following this freaking crazy-ass lady around all damn day long." He then turns to start walking out back the same way they all had came in, and calls out to his team, saying, "Let's get the fuck out of here," and instructs the team to follow him back out of the woods. Of course, the cameraman is always following a little bit behind the rest of the Bigfoot team, in order to film them all at the same time, as they're all walking around. So he turns to follow the Bigfoot team back out of the woods, but then when he hears a strange kind of sound behind him, he turns back around with the camera and films the lady blowing really hard on this toy Bigfoot head she's holding. He then notices that she's actually starting to turn blue in the face a bit, so he keeps the camera on her for a minute, wondering if maybe she was about to pass out or something. He peeks back towards the direction his team was going, and then freaks out a little bit, because his team is no longer in sight. So he decides he better hurry and catch up with them, but then he hears, "Mama, mama, 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 mama." He looks back one last time as he's walking away, but then his mind is completely blown when he realizes he's actually seeing a really big-ass Bigfoot that was just strolling on up, but that was looking a bit like a giant baby who was barely able to walk, with all of his wobbling back and forth, and holding both his arms straight out from his sides, and yet he never stops moving directly towards this lady. But before he could even turn the camera back around and get it back into focus, he literally just freaks out, drops the camera, and just runs off, leaving the camera on the ground still rolling. He ran as fast as he could, trying to quickly catch back up with his team, screaming out really loud, "There's a real Bigfoot back there," over and over again as he's running blindly through the woods. He finally catches up with his team, and tries explaining to them what had just happened. At first, they were all a bit hesitant, thinking that he's probably just trying to pull a fast one on them, and just joking around or whatever. But eventually he convinces them, and so they all decide to go back. looking for Bigfoot, or the lady, whichever came first, but they had no luck with finding either. However, they were eventually able to find the camera that the cameraman had dropped. But then after their realizing that the lady was actually nowhere to be found, and then with the creatures and the lady's footprints both appearing to only be headed in one direction, which was towards where the cameraman had said he had last seen them, they started tripping a little bit, because with absolutely no footprints at all appearing to be heading away from there, they decided they needed to review whatever footage was last captured by the camera, after it was dropped by the cameraman, hoping it would help them figure out what had happened to the lady. Because the majority of them had said they think that the creature had to have grabbed the lady and then climbed straight up into the trees or something, as they could think of nothing else that could explain how they both could be gone, with there being absolutely no footprints at all that seemed to be leaving the area. But then, when trying to view the footage, for some reason the camera battery was completely dead, even though it should have lasted for several more hours before needing to be recharged again. They actually ended up having to replace the battery with one from a different camera, in order to get that camera working at all. But then when they were finally able to play the footage back, all they were able to see was the lady's lower half, because when the cameraman had dropped the camera, it had landed hard and ended up sitting on its side. However, even though they had a limited view, they still were actually able to hear the lady very clearly, and there was no doubt at all as to what she was saying, because they very clearly heard her say, "What's the matter, baby? Did those mean old wannabe hunters actually scare you a little? Oh, you poor baby. Well, you don't need to be scared anymore, they have all gone back now." Then they notice, while they all were staring intensively at the camera's tiny preview window, with both confusion and amazement, they realized that they could make out what looked like two really big hairy legs, and that they appeared as if they were actually squatting down, as if whatever it was literally sitting directly in front of this lady. But then the footage ended abruptly after a bright blue flash, making it seem as though the flash, or whatever it was, had to be what had caused the battery to be instantly sucked dry of all its juice. With no real explanation to be found, they had went back towards the town where they had first met the lady, only to find her there as if nothing had ever happened, as she acted as if she had no idea what they were talking about when they asked her about the whole incident. Scene title: Finding the lady that Bigfoot calls Mama. Jack, now convinced that the lady was legit, he tries desperately to get her to go out with him so she could call Bigfoot once again, for him. She says no. Absolutely not. Especially after you were calling me crazy. And then with you being all loud, you really scared the poor Bigfoot. I would never ever take you out there anywhere near any of them again, not with all that rude and foul-mouthed yelling you did. She then says, so just leave me alone, and says, maybe you should go ask old man Hopper, I heard he knows a different Bigfoot and exactly where he lives. You can find him down by the end of the old canal, if you really want to, you can't miss him. Again she says, now you need to just leave me alone. And you need to go ahead and just stay far away from the area I took you to where baby lives. Or else, baby will want to scare you back, and you'll be forced to remember some really scary things that happened to you when you were just a little kid. Jack says, nothing scary has ever happened to me when I was a little kid. She then says, oh so, you already forgot why you started hunting Bigfoot. Jack says, how do you know about that? She then looks at him and then says, how about? And right at that moment, before she even has a chance to finish what she was saying, Jack jumps back, with a really frightened look on his face. He starts shaking really bad and says, what the fuck, I don't remember ever seeing a Bigfoot before the night that me and my friend caught that Bigfoot on camera. But now I clearly remember a really horrible and frightening night that happened 3 or 4 years even before then. I now will also remember peeing my bed for years way before I ever turned 13, all because of a night a really big scary face was growling at me through my window when I was only about 9 years old. She then says, and to think, all these years you've been telling everyone you first seen a Bigfoot when you were around 13 years old. Jack says, you must be some kind of witch or something, how in the fuck did you? She cuts him off, saying, there you go again, with all that yelling and stuff, I guess you'll never learn. She then asks Jack, do you really want another one of those scary memories? Then she hollers out past her window, baby, if he isn't gone within the next 5 minutes, I want you to go back and say hi to him 3 more times. When Jack hears her say that, he freaks out and just runs off, saying, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Scene title. Old Man Hopper agrees to lead team to another Bigfoot. Once again they find themselves walking a really long ways. After walking for what seems like hours, one of the Bigfoot team notices their camp not too far away. Says, look, it's our camp. Jack says, old man, we've been walking for hours in a giant circle. Old man says, yeah, I know, but you have to sneak up on Bigfoot from downwind. But after making the mistake of not believing the lady, Jack doesn't want to take any chances. And so he decides to keep following the old man. Finally the old man says, Bigfoot lives just up ahead, just past that really thick brush. Do you see it? The Bigfoot teams rushes up ahead, right up to the thick brush that's blocking their way. After cutting a pathway through the brush, and they find themselves looking out at a huge clearing. So then they all walk out into the clearing and there's nothing really there but a big lake. So, Jack asks the old man once again, in a rather rude way, so where's he at her, old man? The old man says, just look over to the other side of the lake, he lives right there. Looking across the lake, Jack notices a faded blue house, so he asks the old man, are you saying he lives over there near that house? The old man says, no, Bigfoot lives inside the house. Jack says, what? Old man. You mean we've been walking for miles and miles in a giant circle through the thickest woods, in order to walk up from downwind? So he won't smell a census coming, and now, you're telling me, that Bigfoot actually lives inside of the house? The old man says, yep, I know for a fact he does, and I'm telling you he lives right there. Jack asks, how can you know this for sure, old man? The old man says, well, I actually once helped him record his music onto an album for him. Plus, I've been over to his house on many occasions, to play foosball against him, at least 100 times or more. Jack asks, what the hell are you saying, old man? You're saying that Bigfoot plays music, and can actually play foosball? The old man says, oh yes, he's actually pretty damn good at both too. Hell, I got his CD in my car, and if you look hard over towards his main window, you can actually see a shitload of his championship foosball trophies all the way from here.